Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Tom, as you can tell by the title of the channel. First off, I'm just going to say a bit about who I am, since it's sort of like an intro video. I'm a Disney adult, as you can tell as well by the name of the channel. Go to the parks all the time, have loads of merch. I love Disney, and this channel is basically going to be it. It's going to be basically me talking about Disney. Talk about the parks, talk about the films, TV shows, etc. And let's get straight into it. First off, I'm going to probably talk about something that's a bit more recent and then kind of go on for the entirety of 2026 in the sense of what we have to look forward to for 2026. For Disney anyways, we have a lot coming up in the next couple of months, February and March. We have a lot of trailers coming up to the Super Bowl, i.e. Avengers Doomsday, Spider-Man Brand New Day, Mario movie, and we also have Toy Story 5. So all these will be broadcasted live from the Super Bowl. So we're going to start off with Avengers Doomsday. Now, this trailer will probably be the one that you'll probably see towards the end of the game, in the sense of because it's the one that everyone's probably going to want to talk about and know about. So they're probably going to leave the best till last. What I think they'll have in this trailer is obviously they'll have Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. They'll have all the cast. They'll be showcasing all of who's in it. i.e. they'll have Chris Evans as Captain America, i.e. Steve Rogers. Bucky will have Sam. We'll have all of them back as well for this film. Obviously that's not coming until the end of the year, but it's probably going to be one of the more anticipated films of the year. And then we have Spider-Man Brand New Day. So obviously Tom Holland's coming back to reprise his role as Spider-Man alongside Sadie Sink, who has now pretty much officially been announced to be in the film. Do I think this film is going to be amazing? Absolutely. It all depends on the story and who the villain is. There's a little bit of teasers in the sense that I think it's going to be Scorpion, who we did see in Homecoming at the end of the film in prison. We do think it potentially could be that. It could also be Venom, since we did see the Avengers Endgame right at the end. A little bit of the symbiote got left in the universe that Tom Holland Spider-Man is in. So we might see something like that. Overall, as someone who's a massive Spider-Man fan, I am absolutely excited for this film to come out, and I cannot wait to go see this in cinemas. I'm going to now talk about the Super Mario film. Obviously with the added bonus of having Yoshi and Rosalia in the film, you have a lot more opportunity to kind of showcase that sort of like Mario Galaxy type world and stuff like that. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they do that on the big screen. And last but not least, we've got Toy Story 5. Unlike other Toy Story films where they've just kind of had the toys kind of against each other, like in Toy Story 2 or Toy Story 3 or even Toy Story 4 and even Toy Story 1, where Woody and Buzz didn't really get along, the fact that the villain of this film is not a toy, it's technology, which I do feel like is a really, really good take on it, in the sense of obviously because nowadays kids don't play with toys as much as my generation did, or even before my generation. And in that sense, I do feel like the approach that they're going with this is going to really change the mindset of people going into the cinema and then also leaving the cinema. The trailer for this is going to be a massive inclination of how Pixar and Disney are going to go about this sort of topic of, are iPads more beneficial to kids than what toys are? Personally, as someone who grew up with like Toy Story toys as a child, I would think toys are much better than iPads. But obviously the generations have changed over the years, so it's going to be a good inclination of how parents and maybe even kids themselves might leave that cinema thinking, wow, maybe this iPad isn't exactly all it's played out to be, and maybe toys are a lot better. I do feel like it's going to be a massive film for Toy Story. I feel like this has to be the last Toy Story they'll ever make, because I feel like the voice actors, Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, etc., I can imagine they're probably a bit now worn out playing Woody and Buzz, Bo Peep, Rex, Ham, Slinky, etc. I do think, however, this is going to be a massive film for Pixar, especially this year. I don't know how many projects Pixar are working on. I do know Toy Story 5 is definitely one of them. Obviously, Disney are working on multiple different projects as well. I'm really hoping that this film turns out the way I want it to, and potentially be one of the best Toy Story films made. Because considering, I can imagine Toy Story 4 was kind of the inclination of that. These films aren't going to keep on going for too long. And the fact that they're making a fifth one, I can imagine this is going to be the film where it's going to be like, they've kind of been hinting at it since Toy Story 3. So the last two films, they've kind of hinted at the sense of that this could be the last time we see Woody and Buzz. And in that sense, I do feel like this potentially could be the last time. In other topics, considering ones that aren't going to be trailered at the Super Bowl, Star Wars news, for example, Darth Maul is getting a series of his own. Personally, as someone who's a massive Star Wars fan and also a massive Darth Maul fan, I'm so excited for this. I cannot wait for this. The only criticism of it is the fact that I really was wishing that they would make the Darth Maul series a live action, because I was really hoping to see a live action version of Darth Maul again, since we haven't seen a live action Darth Maul realistically, except from like the little snippet we had in Solo. We haven't really seen him since Phantom Menace. So I do feel like they really should have maybe took the time to maybe get that sort of live action done. Maybe they might make a film of it in the future, potentially. I really hope so. I really hope this series does really well. Obviously, it's got the kind of the same animations like what most Star Wars animated series have had, in the sense that it's the same animation as what they had in the Clone Wars series. And same with Bad Batch, same with the Jedi Tales, etc. I really hope that this series is the best one they've ever made, because it's my favourite member of the dark side, personally. Moving on to the parks, obviously it's no secret now that Disneyland Paris is getting a Frozen Land opening in March, towards the end of March. I'm really, really excited for this. Obviously, there's a one in, it's either Shanghai or Hong Kong that has another Frozen Land. I can't remember which one. I know it's either Shanghai or Hong Kong. However, with Frozen being set in Europe, the fact that they're now bringing Frozen to Europe is a massive, massive thing. How I feel that this land's going to be, I really, really hope that they make the land more catered around the second film over the first one. So I really hope that potentially, obviously we know nothing about the Frozen ride. Most people are probably just expecting that Frozen Ever After is going to be the same as what they have in Hong Kong or Shanghai, or the one in Walt Disney World and Epcot. I personally really hope they've really went outside the box and made the Frozen Ever After ride in Paris based around the second film. Mainly just because it's going to make it stand out and it's going to make it different from the other versions of Frozen Ever After. Obviously, you've got to address Olaf, the character meet of the animatronic Olaf. The fact that Disney have managed to make an animatronic that just walks freely around the park. Like, you get to meet him and he talks to you, he walks around without guidance or anything like that, I feel like is such a massive standpoint that is really going to differentiate like the parks, and it's going to really revolutionize the parks as well. Obviously, with the parks in terms of Disney parks in Florida, obviously there's a lot going on, changing around in the parks in Disney World. Obviously, they've got the Encanto ride coming, they've got Indiana Jones coming, they've got the Villains Land coming as well at some point. Hollywood Studios has got the Monsters Inc. land replacing the Muppets Courtyard, which I do think is going to be massive, especially for the Monsters Inc. ride. It's going to be very, from what we've seen in terms of the concept art and stuff, it's going to be basically You're a Doll. Realistically, that's going to be a revolutionary type ride, because it's going to be something we've never seen before. And also we've got in California, the Galaxy Edge in California is changed into a more original trilogy type land, which I don't know if it's happening in Disney World, but I really hope they are, considering making the one in Disney World also kind of more original trilogy where you get to see Han Solo, Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker, example. Or they could even make a more prequel trilogy where they've got Anakin, Obi-Wan, Count Dooku, Yoda, etc., where it's a bit more that sort of sense. There's a lot of potential with all these parks, and that's kind of the idea that Walt Disney had back when he first created Disneyland was, as long as there's imagination in the world, Disneyland will never be complete. And that's sort of, I can imagine that especially recently, a lot of the Imagineers have kind of taken that sort of phrase as like, we're gonna have a massive reshuffle of most of the parks and pretty much like outdo Universal, except for example, here are now, obviously now they've got Epic Universe in Orlando, they've got a park in Japan, they've got a park in California, and now Universal are building a park right on the doorstep of Disneyland Paris in England. So the fact that they're making a UK Universal is probably going to make Disney more eager to make stuff in Paris to compete with that, because we know nothing about what they're bringing to that Universal. However, I can imagine that Universal are going to try and get every sort of other sort of like project on there, i.e. with it being Britain, they'll probably have something to do with James Bond. They could easily make like a sort of a test track type ride, but catered around James Bond. And who says they won't do that? Or even a roller coaster based around James Bond. That's kind of like Rock and Roller Coaster. So that is the ending of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, let us know down in the comments below. If you want to check out any of my Instagram or TikTok, the links are just in the description below. If you have liked this video though, please like and subscribe. And tell me if there's any more Disney news you'd want me to talk about. Please let me know down in the comments below. And see you later.